filled with our laughter, our joy, and our pain, with the parts that are ugly and hurtful, not to harm us, but to share the light into someone else's darkness, for it is to uplift and encourage and motivate the people that we may touch along this journey called life, with the mention of our victories and our triumph, for it says that we have overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimonies. So never be afraid to reveal the pages of your story, for it is for me and you as sisters that we share and give God the glory. So let's talk.
Let's talk. In victory we win. In victory we win.
Hey guys, it's your girl Latoya Renee, and you're tuning into season 2 of Sister Can We Talk. This is an empowerment show that allows us to share each other's testimonies, to build each other's faith, to believe in the impossible. Today's show reminds me of my favorite scripture. It's Psalms 32:8, where it says, "The Lord will guide you along your best pathway for your life. He will advise you and he will watch over you." Today I have a special guest in the building. Her name is Alicia Caldwell Henderson. Yay! I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you for just being here today. Oh my God. So I love your testimony, because your testimony not only deals with us being as adults, but it also caters to the younger generation. So please start from the beginning. Share your testimony today.
I guess it starts in London, Kentucky, where I was born.
Mm-hmm.
My mom had us in church early. We attended Mill Street Baptist Church, but it was kind of sporadic because it was the only black church in London, Kentucky, and let me just say
that was the only one.
The only one, because there are only a handful of us living there.
Right.
And so the pastors that came to pastor the churches didn't live in the town. They would drive in from other cities.
Wow. Okay.
So we had one year, or I guess for a couple of years, he came from Louisville, and I remember he brought there were either his nephews or his grandsons, I can't remember at the time, but they would come in, and I remember watching them one Sunday, go to get saved.
Right.
And I remember standing there like, well, wait a second, if they can do it, I can do it too.
Yes.
So I did it the next Sunday.
How old was you?
9, 10-ish. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah.
But I think it was 89, so it was 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember when it was cold, so I guess it was fall or winter. And I remember going to be baptized. They didn't dip me in the water all the way because it was cold and the water wasn't warm. So when I came up, I was walking like a zombie.
One question for you. So when you decided that, okay, you know what, if they can do it, I can do it too, what did your mom say? Because you was 9 years old. Did you go to her and you say, "Hey mom, so next Sunday"?
I don't even remember.
Yeah.
But I know she was happy.
Yeah.
But I just remember at a young age, I guess after that, I had such a strong conviction and just desire to be in the house of God and to build a relationship with Jesus. So I remember one year, I think I was like 10 or 11, and I had gotten chicken pox, and it was around Easter. And I remember I got dressed up anyway. I had on my Easter dress. We took pictures, and then mom was like, "You can't go to church." And I remember laying on the couch and crying the whole time.
Yeah.
I couldn't be there, and everybody else.
It's just funny because, most kids are like, their minds are far from the things of Christ. Now, you got to drag them to church, or you got to bribe them to church, or if you come to church, you're going to get a toy or something like that. But you was eager to go.
I was ready, and I cried. I remember that day.
Yeah.
I do. And then, just even my prayers at the time, they were very childlike, but God revealed himself to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm a gamer. Like, I have to delete games off my phone now because I know I'm a gamer and it takes up all my time. Yeah. But, that was when the first Nintendo came out, and Mario World, addicted to Mario World.
Yeah.
And I remember trying to make it past each level. And when I couldn't do it, I'd be like, oh God, please help me through this. I know you can help me.
Right.
And he did.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, he listened to my prayers. But again, I was a child, but that he still revealed himself to me because I believe he helped me.
I think it's so profound because we think the Lord is going to show, him to us in a very, what everybody else does. But he shows us to even the smallest child the way that we can understand it.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So for you, that video
Mario
game, like, look, Lord, I can't get past this. If you only help me, and then for him to do it, it was something, big in your eyes.
It was.
Yeah.
So I stuck with him all my life.
So you're originally from Kentucky.
Yes.
But of course you're here in Jacksonville, Florida.
Yes.
So tell me how that happened.
My dad he's retired now, but he worked for CSX. So in 94, he came down to work a little bit, but then in 95, they reassigned him here. So we moved down in June of 1995. So we already knew a family that was here, the Turners, because they also lived in London, Kentucky when we were there, and they went to Mill Street Baptist Church with us at that time. So whenever we got here, my mom reached out to them, and they invited us to come to Word of Faith, which is now the Potter's House. And for her, at the time, she just wasn't sure where she should be because she was visiting a lot of churches. But the Turners would come and pick me up and take me with them to church, and so I'd be at the Word of Faith, the Potter's House, at 15. But then eventually my mom was like, okay, this is gonna be our home church, and so she started attending.
Once again, you as a child are being led and not even knowing
that you think of it that way.
You are being led and didn't even know that you're being led. And it's funny because as children, we know there's something, you know what I'm saying? We know that there's a God. We know that he hears us, but it's like he guides us in our own way. Even when your mom was still trying to find her home church, she was like, look, I don't know what y'all gonna do.
I mean, and they did. They'd come and pick me up, and I would be like, see you guys later.
I'll be back.
Oh my gosh, and now I'm hearing myself talk. I sound like my daughter. This is where she gets it from.
It's just funny because it's like, you as a child, you know what I'm saying? Like, you do sound like...
Oh Lord.
It's an aha moment. Now she has footage.
She does. She didn't need any more.
But just to see you so strong and your faith at that time, did you even know what it was? You just knew that, like, what was that for you?
I mean, I knew I wanted to go because I loved being in church whenever I was a kid in London, and we just didn't have consistency because again, it was the only black church there. So even though the church doesn't exist anymore, they turned it into a museum for African American people in London, which is great. Yeah. But I mean, just kind of to show the lack of consistency for black churches, and
in that area,
in that area, and we weren't comfortable going to an all-black church. Not that we weren't comfortable, but you want to feel a certain experience. You know what I mean? So. I don't know. It's just
because it's
in me.
Okay.
It's just in
you
me.
said God was so real to you, and I thought that was even as a kid because even my experience when we was talking before, I had the same experience. Like I knew who he was. You know what I'm saying? And I would say little prayers myself, and then I'm like, okay, he hears me. Right. But just to have that strong connection with him at a young age. Most of us we think that it would happen in our adulthood, but that's why I was like, it's so profound for a younger generation who are in church, who it's right now it's against the normal to be in church. And so just to hear your testimony, it's like, I was one of them kids.
I mean, but even then for me it was against the norm, I guess, because you know, after I got here, 15, going to the Word of Faith, like my core group of friends, they weren't in church.
Yeah.
I mean, it was me.
How was that? Because there are kids right now who are called to do so many things in the church, but the group of friends that they have would bully them, saying, "Oh, you going to church," and stuff like that.
I mean, they didn't bully me per se, and I was always out and about. I was in the mix. Yeah. Like, I've always been in the mix, but God protected me from going too far. Like, I never went,
that was one of my quotes. Yes.
I never went too far. I'd be out and about, like doing things I had no business doing.
But he would never let you go.
No, like I was always protected.
Yes.
Or I would stop before it got too much.
You was convicted.
Right. I was convicted.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just so, because there's younger people out there who are, like I said, are being called for things of God, and like I said, it's against the norm. And so just to hear you say that, you know what, it was against the norm for myself, but you know, if you keep at it, and look, even if you don't keep at it, he ain't gonna let you go too far.
He closes doors, and so you have to listen. Like, when he's getting your attention.
Yes.
So I learned early when he was getting my attention.
Yes.
So I mean, now I know exactly.
So that will be my next question. How did you know that he was getting your attention?
It's just something that, you know, that you feel at times.
Yeah.
And then other times just doors will close.
Yes.
Things will just stop. Or he'll remove people from your life.
Right.
Or situations will make you have to turn another direction. But, you know, he's stopping it.
So at that moment when doors were closing, at that moment when people were being taken from your life, what was your thoughts in that moment? Was you angry? Was you...
So, I'm just going to say I didn't care. And that's probably... And I'm laughing because that's a trait that comes from my mom's side of the family.
Okay.
And it may not always be positive.
Yes.
But I know, like, I just didn't care. It's just whatever.
Yes.
It's like whatever, because I've always been very confident in myself and who I am.
Right.
And again, I think that's just a trait that comes from her side of the family, because everybody on that side is that way.
Yeah.
You can be wrong and all wrong, but just very confident in what they're doing and they don't care.
Do me a favor.
Yes.
To a child, to a teenager that is looking at this now and say, you know what, I know that I have a calling on my life, and I know that, you know, things are lining it up for me to follow what God has for me.
Right.
And some doors are closing, some friends are leaving, but to a 16-year-old, to have to...
So, I got this because I talk to my daughter about this sometimes. Because you have to... I mean, as a teen, you have to stand strong in who you are.
Right.
And I know your world is the biggest thing to you in this moment, because these people you see every day, you can't control being around them because they're in your school, they're in your community. You're not living on your own yet, but you still have to stand strong in who you are. And you've got to be able to know and understand that regardless of what happens, God is with you, and God's got your back. And it's okay to cut people off, because sometimes you just need to cut them off. Whether they cut themselves off, God cuts them off, or you cut them off, you need to protect your peace, and protect your space, and protect your energy, and you know, just your soul, and stay connected to Jesus.
Yes. So, as a child, you was being led, right? And now you're on the other side of being led, right? Yes. You are married with children. Yes. Tell us about the story about your husband, because
so, because you know, I had a couple of times where I rededicated, right? So the first one was 17, and the second one was 21. I had just gotten out of a relationship, and I was like, okay, God, like, I want a husband one day. So I'm going to break up with this boyfriend I have. I'm going to focus on you.
Right.
And you're going to send me my husband.
Right.
Because, you know, me and God, we've got pacts. Like,
we got that connection.
Right. So I did it. Like, we broke up, right?
Right.
I think it was like a Thursday or Friday, Saturday, something like that.
Right.
We broke up. And then Sunday I go to church. And then, you know, come home. And my sister's like, guess who gave me their number to give to you? And I was like, who? She was like, Mo. And I was like, who? I was like, okay, whatever. I mean, but I didn't get the number because, you know, I just broken up with somebody. I'm like, God, I'm not trying to get into a relationship.
But then, ain't that what you asked Jesus?
But I just broke up with somebody. So then the next Sunday, Mo comes to me. Like, he didn't even know my name. He didn't even know my name. And let me just give you a backstory on him. Because in that summer, I didn't know this until later, but over that summer, he had gone to my mom and asked if he could date her daughter.
Look at how Mo's doing stuff.
Right. And my mom was like, which one? And he said, your oldest one. He didn't know my name. And he didn't know my name when he was sending his number to me. But anyway, he came up to me the next Sunday.
That is so sweet.
Yes. It is. But he came up to me the next Sunday and was like, why didn't you call me? I was like, I don't know you like that. Lord. So he wrote his number down and he was like, call me. And I was like, okay, whatever. Had no plans on calling him at all. But because I wasn't trying to get in a relationship because that's always how it happened for me. Like, I'd have a boyfriend, somebody be married, break up, I'm in another one, break up, I'm in another one. So I was trying to break that cycle.
But can I tell you this? You can't tell God how to do it.
I know. Tell me about it. So I learned. So I ended up calling him and we hung out for a long time, which was great. Yeah. But then, like, throughout, I'd be like, because I started feeling like this is who God sent me, but I was like, I don't know. I was like, God, if this is the person I'm supposed to be with, like, I need you to, this was one night after church. It's like a Wednesday. I was like, if I'm really supposed to be with him, I need him to bring me a Publix cake, like, right now. Jesus. That's what I said. Yeah. Because at the time, those were my favorite cakes. And then, like, I'm not even kidding, like, 10, 15 minutes later, he shows up at my door and he's got a cake. Okay, so did you, like, I didn't tell him. Okay. Not until later. Yeah. And so he comes to the door with the cake. And he was like, I don't know why I just picked this up for you, but I wanted to pick this up and bring it to you. And I was like, thank you. And I was like, okay, God. But then it happened again. He was getting on my nerves one day. On my way home from work. And I was like, God, I don't know. I don't know if he's the one. I know what you said. But if this is the person I'm supposed to be with, I need you to, he needs to call me like in 5 minutes. Lord. And then he called. So after that one, I was like, I'm not doing this with you anymore, God. I don't need any more confirmations because you're going to keep giving them. And I don't know how I feel about it.
So you eventually married Mo.
Yes, we got married. Had children. Like when I was pregnant with Ashlyn, because she's
your first child.
She's my first child. And like I said, God, well, maybe I didn't say it here, but God, like, I don't know what it is we have, but he shows me visions at times. And I remember when we were dating, he would show me
that you was going to
have a girl. Yeah. And I was like, okay, so I kind of knew. I wasn't surprised, but it was just crazy the way it happened because, pregnant with her the night before we found out that she was a girl, we both had a dream about the same baby girl who was about the same age in both of our dreams. And then we go do the ultrasound. And
here comes Ashlyn.
our dream baby. So that was how we chose the name Ashlyn because it means dream in Irish.
That is awesome. Yeah. I never knew that. That is so, and it's just like your testimony. That's why I said it's so profound because if you're really in tune and listen to God, he will direct you along the best pathway for your life.
And honestly, I have to say I'm scared not to listen to him. I am.
Right, but
because I've done that before and it didn't work out.
And then he has to keep on telling you, so then I was this is your husband. Right. I'll let him brought you a cake.
Right. I
told him to call you in 5 minutes. You gonna listen to me now?
Right. I'm like, okay, God.
Amen. This for you, Lord. But I like to see the other side of people's testimonies because here you are as a child. You know that God had hands on your life. Yes. You know that if anybody else ain't going to church, I guess to be there, and y'all can just follow me later. And you were so secure in who God is creating you to be, even at a young age, that you just follow his footsteps. And now to see you married with 2 beautiful daughters, you know. And then I didn't say this to you guys who are listening. She is an author. Come on, Jesus. Now, how did that happen?
So, okay, so this was, I mean, honestly, I wrote this.
And and this is the book, guys,
this
that
is
she...
the book, Young, Dumb, and Naive.
And it's your
Ashlyn, yeah. Oh, my first book, and that's Ashlyn on the book cover. She's my model.
I did not know.
Yeah, I took one of her pictures. I was like, I'm going through your Instagram, and I'm going to use one of your pictures.
This.
Don't send me later.
Yes.
I wrote it, I think I was 22 when I started it, because it was after I had graduated college, because I went to UNF to do journalism. I thought I was going to be a newspaper writer, right? Like, I wanted to be a journalist. But in that last semester I was in, I was doing an editorial and columns writing class where they teach you how to write opinions as a journalist. But that was at the time that September 11th happened.
Oh, wow, yes.
So before September 11th happened, because we were analyzing everything in the news at that time, but before September 11th happened, all the stories were on sharks and possible shark attacks. And right? And then September 11th happened, and then it was nothing about what if. Right. So I remember writing a column, and I was like, you know, as media, we need to be more responsible in what we're reporting. We don't know what's going to happen. We can't keep people scared on purpose. Right. I remember turning it in, and my professor was like, well, you know, the media is a business too. So it was like, at that moment, I was like, okay, you know, I can't do this. Like, I can't manipulate people to read. I mean, I graduated anyway, of course, because I was on my last semester with my degree. But then afterwards, I was like, okay, I want to write, but I'm not going to manipulate people. Like, what can I do? Yeah. So at the time I wrote that, I was also working for a company called the Paxton Group, and we had a program for at-risk youth, and we were teaching them life skills and employability skills. Right. And that was when I fell in love with working with youth. Yes. So something like connected, and I was like, oh, I can write a book. Yeah. Yeah. And so the main character's name actually is Erica. I think we had a person whose name was similar to that in like the program. Yeah. So I wanted to use that name, but anyway, that's how that happened. So I wrote it. They inspired me, or working with, you know, the teens inspired me, because I also remembered how much I loved reading whenever I was younger. But then I started looking at the stuff I read. I'm like, we didn't have representation as people of color. Right. So no wonder why a lot of teens don't want to read now, because they don't see themselves in books. Right. So I wanted to be able to write something that they could see themselves represented, and a story that would be familiar, but it's also because it encompasses so much, like Christianity, like teens, relationships, trying to fit in. Yes. So all of that is in there.
Can I tell you, that is what your life story?
It's similar.
Yeah. Just as you was telling.
Similar. Yes. I mean, some things are different. Like the mom in there is not supportive at all. Yeah. So she's nothing like my mom.
Right. But it's funny how God allows us to do things that we can use inspiration for the things that are around us in our story. Yes. And it's funny how that in that moment in 9/11, it was a conviction.
It was. I was like,
and you, God is so awesome. It's like your convictions that you was learning as a child. You hear what I'm saying? And so when it came into that moment, you knew that, like, Lord, you talked to me before, and this doesn't sound right, and I'm listening and now. Right. And you was able, after years of training with Lord, you was able to say, you know what, I'm not going to do that. That's not who God has called me to be. No. And in fact, I'm going to write a daggone book.
And I did. It took me like a year to write it. I had sent pieces of it off to different publishers. Yeah. I had actually got a deal with a company called Walkworthy Press at the time. But then the deal fell through, and I remember feeling so bad because it fell through, and then the book just sat forever. And so Mo would bother me. Like, every year, when are you going to put the book out? What are you going to do with the book? You got the book sitting.
You don't leave me alone. I know where the book is at.
Right, just harassing
It's on the table where I left it.
Well, in the closet. But I did some research. researched and learned about self-publishing.
Yeah.
And that's when I went ahead and self-published it on Amazon.
So where, I was going to say, where,
Amazon.
Amazon.
Yes.
Can people follow you? Or
Yes.
how can people follow you to know what you're doing? Because I know there's another book in you.
There is. I mean, I wrote a smaller one because I'm
Yes.
playing around with the ideas of, it's called a novelette. Because they're really short, like 6 chapters. Because again, I know reading is not something that is pushed in some communities.
Right.
And so my goal, because you know, I'm also a teacher.
Yes.
So I've taught reading, and so I've seen it firsthand.
Yes.
Like students not wanting to read and
right.
not being interested in
Right.
reading. So whenever you do present them with something like this, if they don't like reading, this is going to be intimidating,
Right.
so they're not going to pick it up.
Right.
So I started playing around with the idea of a novelette, which is shorter, like 6 chapters. I forget how many pages, but it's shorter and it's not as intimidating to make it through. So that one is, that one's also available on Amazon.
Yes. And can people find you on Instagram?
Yes, Instagram at Alicia Caldwell Henderson. You can follow me on Amazon, the author thing. Once you look for me, Alicia Caldwell Henderson. My Facebook is the same, Alicia Caldwell Henderson. So just remember the name.
Before we go, I want you to talk to a young lady out there that was you. And was feeling was feeling discouraged, was feeling, you know, like, am I doing the right thing in this moment?
Okay. All right. So in this moment, whether or not you're sure if you're doing the right thing, pray about it. Seek God. It's good to be able to go and talk to people, but you have to be careful because sometimes people don't understand exactly what you're going through. So my biggest advocate is just praying and talking directly to Jesus, because he knows, and you know, if you're open and you're listening to him, you know when he's talking to you, and you know when he's confirming things for you. So just keep seeking after him, seeking after his guidance and what it is that he wants you to do with your life. He'll answer. He'll throw some things your way, and when they come, don't question them. He'll keep sending them just to remind you, but just listen.
Oh, that is awesome. Miss Alicia, thank you so much for being on the show. Guys, I hope you was here to listen. Thank you so much for viewing. And kids out there, it's okay to believe in Jesus. It's okay if you want to leave your mama and your daddy at the house and say, y'all come get me. I need to be in the house of the Lord because that's where I need to be at, Jesus. Yeah, it's going to be out the norm. Yes, it's going to be, you're going to stick out like a sore thumb. But that's okay because you're fabulous anyway. And people need to see you, okay? Yes. So thank you so much, guys, who are viewing today. We love you so much. Thank you for viewing. And until next time, guys, remember to love, pray, and be that beacon of light for the world to see. Bye.
Let's talk. In victory we win.